Welcome to a Goth Wednesday TV. So it's been a minute. Man, the debates and everything happened so fast, and so I couldn't even keep up and upload. But always team conservative, always have been, and never will not be, based on my values. So I'm really glad that Trump won. So let's get into it. The video I'm gonna watch. I always watch Piers Morgan, so I'm gonna watch a little bit of it.
I think Kamala ran basically the platonic ideal of a non-woke Democratic campaign.
What's the future of the Democrats? Who would you like to see run the party now?
Jon Stewart. Honestly, a controversial, charismatic celebrity might make all of the difference.
Possibly the loss would have been worse if Taylor Swift and folks like Oprah weren't working with Kamala Harris.
Although Taylor Swift is popular, obviously she's not that popular because she did not move the needle.
Alan, you deserve a tall glass of shut-up juice. You live in a total world of denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you.
I mean, brother, I said what was going to go wrong. It did go wrong. I was right.
It's lovely to see a post-election harmony as you all come together again.
You should not be taking cheap shots at me, and I won't stand for it.
Hey, Alan, shh.
The inquest into the shock death of a
I'm not going to keep pausing it, but man, I swear, this guy, this poll reader, I call him like this, I don't know, like this poll reader, whatever, he was totally wrong. Totally wrong.
The Democratic Party has so far proved inconclusive. But the only clear message emerging from the ruminations, as with the campaign itself, is that the orange man is still back. Just about nobody on the left can agree on why the orange man therefore won by a landslide and what should happen next. Here's just a snapshot of views from the masterminds who were wrong about, well, almost everything.
It is time for the Democrats to say, okay, and you and I have talked about this before, a lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of,
with other Hispanics. You got some that don't like each other.
The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry.
I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families. That's where we are.
Elon Musk is, I don't know how many hundreds of billions he has. He has been the director of misinformation.
And this idea that like, oh no, the economy is actually good or crime is actually down, or this is all just Fox News. Like, shut the fuck up with that. Like, talk to some people who live near you.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. She had Queen.
I gotta pause it. I cannot stand her thinking. Her thinking is not even logical. It's just pure hate. It's just pure everything's about color, race, background. It's just barbaric. It's just her her thinking. It's like a black hole. It's like she can't think no other way. She just can't think no other way. What is it, Joy? I think her name's Joy. She's not Joy. And isn't that funny? Joy, and then the other chick that's racist too. His name's Sunny. No, she's Cloudy. I call her Cloudy. Joy? Joy is not Joy. She's pure evil, pure sadness. Just pure hate and sadness. She thinks one way and one way only.
Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed.
I got bad news for you. They don't have a monopoly on stupid. You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, I mean person who menstruates.
Exactly. Whatever the prescription should ultimately be, the diagnosis is surely crystal clear. Trump has made commanding inroads with working class voters, black voters, Latino voters, urban voters, and young voters. It's a veritable rainbow coalition of disaffected people who the Democrats have traditionally relied upon and more recently taken for granted. So what drove them away? Was it government-funded operations to transgender illegal aliens? Was it prioritizing SNL and 60 Minutes over Joe Rogan and Theo Von? Was it the warm embrace of Liz Cheney and a hawkish, even conservative stance on the wars in Israel and Ukraine? Was it gaslighting America into believing Joe Biden was so sharp he could slice concrete and meant ousting him for a simply dreadful candidate in Kamala Harris? Maybe it was all of the above, delivered with a customary liberal serving of supreme self-confidence and the firm belief that everyone who disagrees with them is a moron or a bigot. But joining me for an uncensored battle for the heart and soul of the Democratic Party, the host and founder of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, presidential historian and pollster Professor Alan Lichtman, Democrat influencer Harry Sisson, and author of New Prize for These Eyes, a senior political analyst at Fox News, Juan Williams. Well, welcome to all of you. Juan, in particular, a long time since I've spoken to you. Great to have you, I think, making your debut on Uncensored, so thank you very much. This is blue on blue, chaps, so you can rip into each other to your heart's content, and hopefully out of it we may get some form of consensus over certain ways that the Democrats could go. Juan, let me start with you. When you look at the election, and you look at the thumping win Trump got and who he won it with, do you think this whole campaign by the Democrats to portray him as racist, sexist, transphobic, Islamophobic, a Nazi, blah, 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 did they just over-egg the 𝔿𝙸𝙴𝚁𝚂 souffle and just in the end play into his hands?
Well, I think they thought, based on the numbers, that this was going to be an effective form of attack. And I think it was for the base of the party. But I think that there were a lot of people who were attracted to other parts of Trump. And I think the whole macho man thing, it worked. You know, you were talking about a rainbow coalition. No, it wasn't a rainbow coalition. But I think that you saw white men still go big for Trump. You saw the Latino men. And I think that's the big story of the election. Latino men suddenly went towards Trump, and there were some black men. I think it was a male thing, and I think, again, you know, the idea that he said offensive, vulgar things about women, the fact that he is, and, you know, says he wants to be an authoritarian, that's all true. But I think a lot of the men said, you know what, we like it.
It's not true.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, Professor Lichtman, you correctly forecast the result of 9 of the past 10 US presidential elections, but not this one. Like most pollsters, I have to say, very, very few people predicted a big win, other than I might, if I may be so modest, I did. I went on Fox News 10 days before with Brian Kilby and said, I think he's going to win big. But actually, most people thought it would be incredibly tight and it could go either way and so on. But it wasn't that at all. Why do you think Trump is so difficult to poll, which is clearly the conclusion I would draw from this?
Well, you know, I am forthrightly willing to admit I missed this election. I still think I actually had 10 out of 10 before. I think I was right about 2000, but we're not here to litigate that. I still think it's a pretty good record. Now, I think two things are operating here. Number one, I was incredibly critical at the time of the spineless, cowardly Democrats openly and viciously trashing their elected president and their elected nominee right out there in the open. I have never seen that before, and I've studied American politics since the founding, and that tainted any nominee. And they're now taking no responsibility for that. They're blaming everybody else. Until they look in the mirror, the Democratic Party is going to be in trouble. Secondly, why did my keys miss? Because my keys are based upon the proposition that a pragmatic, rational electorate decides whether or not the White House party is governed well enough to get 4 more years. That was exploded this time by a new wave of disinformation that we've never seen before. In addition to the usual sources of disinformation, we had a huge change this time. A 300 billionaire, a guy who's richer than most countries of the world, who controls X, spreading vast disinformation. According to reports, billions upon billions of viewers saw.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter for so many reasons. I just don't want to just like be long-winded, but that does not matter.
his disinformation. People have a completely distorted view of
what
the
was
economy.
the disinformation? Okay.
It's not distorted. I have never met Elon my whole fucking life. I don't worship him. When somebody's on the same wavelength as you, and you know it's authentic, and what? It's got to take somebody's son turning into another gender, which is not valid. It's not ever gonna. You're not gonna turn into another gender, but trying to turn into another gender. It. What does it have to take? It has to take that. Anybody can go through that. To know that America is turning into up is down and down is up. What does it gotta take?
Inflation is going up.
Let me pin you down on that, though. What, you say Elon Musk was spreading disinformation. Like what?
Freedom of speech.
Yes, he is spreading vast disinformation that's sunk in. Even people who think their own financial situation is pretty good think inflation is going up when it's been cut by 75%, that unemployment
but it's still
is
inflation.
a near high when
it's still inflation,
near
Professor.
a low.
On that point, see, it's interesting. You would say that's disinformation, but the point is that inflation is still not zero. Therefore, prices are still going up. Therefore, people...
The only way you get inflation to zero is with a recession.
Yeah, but here's my point.
Obviously.
Here's my point. Yeah, but here's my point. Democrats kept telling the American people rather arrogantly, I thought, the economy's in really good shape. Meanwhile, inflation still exists. In other words, prices have continued to go up and up and up, albeit not at the same rate they were going up. But if it wasn't zero, and it wasn't, it was like 2.5% or whatever by the end, that is still inflation.
That 2.5% or whatever, I feel it. Other people around me feel it. So you're trying to tell us what we're experiencing, we're delusional, it's not real? Ugh.
So it's not disinformation to say
the only
Americans
way
are
you
still
get it
suffering
to
inflation.
zero is a recession, is deflation. That's ridiculous. Inflation has been cut by 80%, but it's not just inflation that people are wrong about.
But do you accept inflation means prices are still going up? Do you accept prices were still going up?
Of course.
Right, so
they
that's
always
the point.
do unless you have a recession.
That's not disinformation,
That's ridiculous.
then, is it? By Elon Musk,
and it's
that isn't
disinformation about every other aspect of the economy as well. Disinformation about undocumented immigrants, like they're the bloodthirsty killers. They are the most law-abiding segment of our society, according to...
Wrong. Families that come, that look like they're families, they're not all families. Most, or even at least half, whatever percentage, whatever, dig up statistics. The point is, they are not all families. They're trafficking people. This shit is darker and deeper than what people think. That's why you have to go to the border and weed people out and do things the correct way instead of just a tsunami, everybody coming in. They just don't get it. They just the Democrats that are just like, oh, we want everybody to come in. We can't have a society and everything can't be good financially and job wise without them. They're just worried about imaginary things. That's just not, doesn't make any sense. It's like they want to just be like, okay, we can help everybody, but they don't want to deal with the results after. They don't want to deal with the results after. And then if you tell them, oh, well, such and such died, or this and such died, or this and that, they'll just be like, oh, it's they're trying to minimize it. Okay, we already have regular American citizen crime. Everybody where they live at, Europe, UK, everywhere. You have your regular crime, but then you want to deal with crime on top of that. That's not even just regular crime. I mean, these people, these motherfuckers torture people. They're in gangs. Like, there's levels to this shit. There's levels to the violence. Just want to turn a blind eye. Just want to turn a blind eye to it. I find that so friggin' ignorant. I'm gonna continue. I'm sorry. I just find that so fucking ignorant. Just ignorant. Have them stay with you. Quick to say no. Because you know why. It ain't even just Hispanics. It's any background. You can't just have everybody flooding in. It's like the whole Manhattan try to fit inside America, or even more. Like the whole New York City try to fit into America. Number one, it's not natural. Number two, it just shouldn't happen. It's not normal. It's not natural. It's not normal. Period.
The numerous studies, including by the Libertarian Cato Institute, they commit crimes, including violent crimes, less than half of that of Native Americans. And they don't drain our economy. They are the mainstay of the agricultural, construction, personal service, hospitality industries. Studies show you will drive the economy into a recession.
Here we go with that. I said I wasn't going to pause it. I don't pause it this much, but I just hate the ignorance behind this. The last job I had that I don't have anymore, where not I just didn't get laid off, many other people got laid off. Not even like you're fired. Like, no, just squeeze me off the schedule. Like, the point is, you don't always know who's like illegal and stuff. And then the manager and the GM, general manager, like I could just tell through the orientation when I got the job and everybody else, like she just was like, she's just gonna give him the job no matter what. The point is, something's not right. Something's not. I just know with that job, if they was to get busted, maybe not all, but some of them are illegal. See, the problem is you're paying people a wage that's not a wage that matches the criteria of the job. Even if it's cook, server, host, I've done it all. These people are willing to work for anything because their wage is just not, it's not good. It's just not, it doesn't match up. So they're lowering their standards. The only reason why people don't want to work, American citizens don't want to work for that, is because they shouldn't have to work for a wage that's not standard wage for any position. I can't stand when people say that, because they don't know what they're talking about. They really don't. They act like the immigrants, Hispanic, French, Jamaican, anybody, they're the backbone of America. No, they're the backbone of the motherfuckers that want to be cheap. Excuse my French, but want to be cheap and not get caught. These businesses that do that. And it's not right. Pay an American citizen with their experience, high school diploma, associates, bachelor's, whatever. Pay them what they're supposed to be paid. That's a problem. Underpaid. You're underpaid. That's the only reason why people are refusing to take these certain jobs. Other than that, we hard-working Americans. I don't know about nobody else, but we hard-working Americans. I come from a family with lawyers, doctors, all of that. The food industry, the hospitality, manager, everything. It's not an excuse. I'll resume. My apologies.
Session, if you go through large-scale deportation of immigrants, and you will sweep huge numbers of U.S. citizens, because all the databases used to identify undocumented immigrants are fundamentally flawed. You can't have a pragmatic electorate under these conditions, and the mainstream media is utterly feeble. It spends 20 times more time on meaningless polls within the margin of error than it does telling truth to power and indicating the consequences of this election.
But it is
it's
okay.
Been taken over by billionaires.
Okay, I'm going to come to Cheng. I mean, Cheng, you know, the biggest deporter in American presidential history was Barack Obama, who deported over 3 million people. This idea that Trump is going to become, you know, some outlier in terms of mass deportation. The great mass deporter was actually a Democrat president, Obama, by a long way, by the way. So this idea of like disinformation, I think some of it was disinformation, but it's, you know, I think the idea that this election was only won through right-wing disinformation, I'm afraid, I view that as a total delusion by the Democrats. Again.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm sorry, but I totally disagree with Juan and Professor Lichtman. Don't blame the voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion, but Juan, I think you're blaming the voters. I think that's a terrible idea. Look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
couldn't
not
find
right,
him before
and
the
I was
election.
not wrong. And that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be
Who
taking
won?
cheap
Who
shots
won?
at me.
Who won?
You want to make your
You
point,
live
make your
in
point.
a total
Don't make
world
it
of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you. Every one of them, and supported me.
Yeah,
so
right,
with
right.
your personal
yeah,
attacks.
come find out again.
Make whatever point you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't
Look,
make it personal.
You don't know anything. You don't know anything.
You attacked me personally.
You're so deluded.
Oh, right. I've only been a professor for 51 years.
On this program, I've never been able to finish a thought.
How many books have you published? No, because you're personally attacking me again.
I don't agree with personal attacks, but at the same time, I'm a writer. I read a lot. I'm a singer, songwriter. I don't have to write a lot of books to know what I'm talking about factually and about the experience. It's not making any sense. And normally I won't agree with Cenk, his crazy ass, but Cenk's seeing what's reality. At least with this topic, he's seeing what's reality.
Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to stand for
brother,
personal
you got it wrong.
Say
you were
whatever you want.
preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, okay, all right. Can I just finish a goddamn thought ever on this show?
No, not if you're personally. I admitted I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
Can I just say, it's great to see you Democrats all getting along so well.
Who taught you manners?
It's lovely to see a post-election harmony as you all come together again.
Hey, Alan, right now. Hey, Alan, you deserve a tall glass of shut-up juice, so can you just shut up for a second? And let someone who knows what they're doing.
You're so right, Pierre. Okay? You're so right. We're so unified right now.
You want, I will not sit here and stand for personal attacks, for blasphemy against me. You don't need to do that. You don't boost
blasphemy against you? Who the hell are you? Are you Jesus Christ, you loser? Okay, can I just give the correct answer for once? Okay, here we go. So, guys, you're blaming disinformation. There was disinformation. There was the cats and the dogs nonsense. The points you're making about undocumented immigrants, I agree with, Alan, okay? But that didn't cost the election. The main disinformation was about how the election was going to be rigged. And it wasn't rigged. It was dumb. They won easily. There was no need for that disinformation. You guys are missing the whole point. The people who are at fault are not other people. It is the candidate, Kamala Harris, the previous candidate, Joe Biden, Democratic Party, Democratic leadership. You guys don't want to admit that they're the problem. They're the cancer in the Democratic Party. So you blindly lash out at the voters, at information, at social media, and you want to shut down anyone who disagrees with you. That's not the correct answer. There are three wings of the Democratic Party. There's the establishment wing that the great majority, almost everyone on television supports and kisses the ass of and does propaganda for. That wing has led to disaster. They lost to Donald Trump twice, nearly lost to him 3 times. And then the other wing is called the progressive wing, but those are two different sets of people. In the progressive...
Dude, they're all the same to me. Especially when they start yapping out their mouth and saying the same thing, like the same highlight points, and they're all the same to me. You can just spot it from a mile away. NPCs, like the same thing. Just say it's the same thing. Like they don't think for themselves. No original thought. It's like Kamala. No original thought. I agree with him to a certain extent, but Cenk, don't try to come over now. It's too late. You're trashing Donald Trump and anybody that had conservative views. So.
So-called progressive wing, what you have is the identitarian left, the people who do what the right wing would call woke politics and and identity politics, and that is disastrous. That's what the trans ad was at the end, and it cost us. The most popular part of the Democratic Party is the populist left. That is the Bernie Sanders 2016 campaign. That part says, let's do super popular economic proposals like paid.
And there are only two genders, male and female. I had to say that. I've been saying it, and I'll keep saying it. I'll stand by what I believe is true, and I'll never have anybody pressure me to think otherwise, to make something that is not normal, normal. Something that is a mental illness, not a mental illness. No, I don't care who didn't classify it as a mental illness, as not being a mental illness. It's a mental illness. They just didn't want to classify it as a mental illness because they knew they could make money off of this thing that's a mental illness. It's funny how woke culture tried to take over America, which is mostly conservative, and woke culture is literally like the 1%, like tiny. And we're not talking like, oh, woke is like the states. Like, no. Conservative took over the whole effing map. So that don't even mean you got to be Christian. No, you just have moral standards. You know what's real. You know what's not real. You have standards. You just have morals. You have lines to things. You have things. Where's the line where it shouldn't be people dancing naked or half-assed naked, throwing dollar bills at 7, 8-year-olds at a bar or in school, or drag, or pornographic books that are literally pornographic books, things like that. You just have a line to it. I'm thankful that America is conservative. I'm very thankful for that. Because people saw past the bullshit. Even the independents and even the Democrats that were Democrats, they saw it's just going too far. It's just going too far. They're not even left no more. There's something that's not even called left. So let them keep being a rat in a little wheel and keep thinking that, oh, it's just nothing wrong. I'm going to be how I'm going to be. 4B movement, shave your head. All this erratic, violent, hateful, demonic freaking behavior. Let them keep doing the same thing. Because MAGA is going to keep always making America great again. Making America healthy again. It's going to always keep going on and on and on. Even if they win again, like, if not this time after Trump, it is Vance or something else. It's always going to be a conservative view. Even if it's an independent president we have the next 8-10 years, it's always going to be somebody that has logic, morals, and common sense. They're not going to turn America upside down to make us look like clowns at a freaking circus. That's not how life naturally is. That's not how any place is supposed to be. When you go against nature, that's when all hell breaks loose, in my opinion. It's not going to work for you. It'll never work for you.
Family leave, higher minimum wage, universal health care, public option. Let's do all of these things. And the establishment goes, no, our corporations don't want that. Our donors don't want that. So we'll just do identity politics. And maybe identity politics will unite the left. But it didn't. Identity politics led to disaster. It was a poison within the Democratic Party, used ironically by the establishment Democrats because they didn't want to talk about popular proposals that we have because their donors hate those proposals.
Okay, let me bring in Harry. Now, Harry, you tweeted or posted on X on November the 6th. Kamala Harris's speech was amazing, graceful, strong, hit the right tone. She's a fantastic leader and a great role model. No idea how she lost to Trump. You're a bright young guy, Harry. I've interviewed you several times. Right? You know why she lost. And that speech, in a way, to me, was the perfect illustration. She basically said nothing. She talked about billions of stars and the moonlight and shining.
Her speech, I'm sorry, I'm going to pause. I won't be long. Her speech was, at least her ending speech or whatever, after she lost the election, was literally word from word Hillary Clinton's speech. Look it up. It was half and half. It was Hillary Clinton's speech. It was mixed up. It was the same, basically the same thing. She has no original thought. There's somebody above her or beyond that was wanting her to win the presidency off of basically abortion and leaving the borders wide open. She had no other policies.
Lights and all that. There was nothing there. There was no meat on the bone, no substance. And that was her problem throughout the whole campaign. She had 100 days to show America, here's how I'm going to fix all your problems. Instead, she did the Hillary Clinton playbook. After promising us joy and sunshine, immediately pivoted to Trump's a Nazi, they're all fascists, they're all disgusting. And by the way, here are all my rich, famous entertainment friends who are all going to surround themselves on me on stages. Didn't work for Hillary, didn't work for Kamala. And at some...
I'm sorry, I have to pause again. I mean, this is a reaction video. Hopefully you guys can agree with me or see what I'm saying, even if you don't fully agree. To think that a person that's from Hollywood that has a totally, completely different life than I have. See, I don't care about race. I'm not obsessed about that. I grew up not caring about that. Like liberals, they care. But to think that you can think your party is so dumb, to think all you have to do is stick a person that's talented because they sing and all that stuff, that's fine. To think you can stick somebody there and say, oh, I'm voting for this person, that person has no brain. To think that we can relate, we can't relate. And I know one may say, oh, well, but what about Donald Trump? It's totally different. And I know you can see it, even if for the haters. You can obviously see self-made. You're a business guy. You are not from Hollywood. You are not telling me that I have to vote for you. It's like I already know through experience I had with you in the last presidency election that you had, how it was. I'm not empty brain to where I can be like, oh, I can relate to you. Just stick a famous person in front of me, be like, oh yeah, vote for this person. Da, 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 da. Hollywood found out quick. At least not from me, but from, I guess, the dummies or the ignorant people, I'll put it that way. Sorry. They realized being played. Kamala not selling anything. She's selling evil, in my opinion. I'm not a religious person, but I am spiritual. She's selling evil. That's all she's selling. No plan in sight. It's obvious what she was trying to do. Get into that presidency and wreak havoc. Period.
At some point, young guys like you, who are the future of the Democrat Party, you've got to wake up and smell the cappuccino. You need a candidate that can resonate. I mean, Cenk right. The Democrat candidate who has most resonated with the public was Bernie Sanders, right? You'd have done better with him running in this election. But you guys don't see it that way, do you?
Well, I think that since the election happened and sitting with it for a couple weeks, I know why Kamala Harris lost. You know, I think that what I said was premature. And I think it's a combination of what all the gentlemen around me are saying. I think it's like a middle ground in life, which I think is often the case, which is, I think Professor Lichtman is right that it was a lot of disinformation pushed by a lot of bad actors in the right wing. But I think that Cenk and the gentleman beside me
hang on, Harry, there was disinformation from the left as well. When you keep calling him a Nazi...
But Piers, it's not to the same, it's
not
to the same level.
When you keep calling Donald Trump a Nazi and a fascist and all these things, and his supporters, Nazi sympathizers...
It was his own
all that is total disinformation. Because he hasn't murdered 12 million people, and he's not going to.
Well,
and by the
Piers,
way, you all know that. So the disinformation is on both sides.
I disagree. I disagree with calling Donald Trump a Nazi or calling him Hitler. But I want to be clear that it was his own former advisors who called him that and likened him to Hitler. Kamala Harris never got on a stage and said, oh yeah, Trump's Hitler now. She just alluded to the fact and brought up the fact that his own former advisor said that. But I also want to make the point that I think that Cenk and the gentleman from Fox News is right when it comes to the economy. I think we were not great when it came to messaging on the economy. The benefit that Trump had is that he could put his slogan on a yard sign. He could say, Kamala Harris, Democrats, high prices, Trump and Vance, low prices. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, was tasked with explaining, okay, here's why inflation went up. Obviously, it's not Joe Biden and me. It's because of external factors. Here's why gas prices went up. Obviously, it's not me. It's external factors. You know, if you're explaining, you're losing, as the famous saying goes.
Yeah.
So that
he just can't say she had no great policies, no policies at all. The only two she had is the one I was mentioning, have the right to keep killing kids for both as birth control, keeping the border open. She had nothing at all. He just can't say that. Like, he just can't say it. I see him all the time. Who is this person? I know Piers Morgan is trying to get ratings, but who is this person? God, Cenk gets my nerves, but at least I know who he is.
That was the uphill battle that we had. And I think there was kind of a perfect storm that led to Donald Trump being elected. And I think that I disagree with you.
But you're missing something else. You're missing something else, which is all the culture war stuff that we kept being assured by the left nobody cared about. No one cares about the trans debates, right? Nobody cares that biological men are wrecking women's sport. Like nobody cares that they're invading women's personal spaces, and so on and so on. No one cares that kids are being put through mutilating surgery before puberty. And we kept being told, nobody cares about this. Leave them all alone. It's transphobic. I'm not transphobic. I wanted trans people, as I still do.
I don't give a shit if I was called transphobic. Excuse my French. I stand for what I believe in, and what I believe is that's not natural, and there's something wrong in your brain that you're trying to chase that you will never get, being that other gender. You just need to accept yourself. It's that simple. It starts affecting me, a female, a woman, when you take over my space, when I see you at the gym with a dick, when I see there's other avenues, it's fetishes, why they do these things. When they start trying to groom kids and do it, that's when it affects me. That's when that's a problem. Nobody should ever be silent or feel bad because they don't agree when things start affecting them. It's not about controlling or not wanting somebody to live their life or say their views. No. That's the left. See, the left wants to silence people. They're a tiny little small percentage of the population. They found out quick they can't run this whole population. That's mostly conservative. You see what's going on with the Hollywood and the movies and all that. Don't nobody care. Hollywood's dead. Hollywood's been dead. Hell, I don't even know what the hell's going on with Hollywood. I just know it's dead. You can't push all this weird demonic. It's demonic. If you look into it, it's demonic. It's not natural. You can't push all this stuff on normal. Yes, because we're normal. We're in our natural stage as far as being male and female. You can't push all this negative, abnormal stuff on people and just tell them to shut up. Especially when it comes to kids. No, you can't. No, you can't.
To have fairness and equality in their lives exactly the same as all of us on this panel. But when you keep telling people it is fair, on the one hand, Democrats said, we protect women's rights on abortion. On the other hand, we're absolutely fine for women's rights in sport to be traduced at this ridiculous altar of biological men who are now trans women competing against women and beating them. You can't be both. So the public went, this is, and you're shaking your head, but look, the New York Times did a report about that ad, which the Trump campaign did so successfully and repeatedly.
I saw it.
Kamala's for they, them, Trump's for you. They reckon it moved the needle by 2.5 points. It was the most successful and effective 30-second ad in modern political history. So people did care. And the Democrats were just too deluded, it seemed to me.
We did, yeah.
Because most of them, you must realize this issue of trans athletes in women's sport is wrong. You all know it's wrong. For some reason, you wouldn't get off that train. And that delusion was one of the reasons that you lost so badly, I believe.
But Piers, two Professor Lichtman's point, that ad in and of itself contained misinformation. The ad was saying, oh, Kamala Harris wants to pay for prisoners' transgender surgeries.
All right, she said it a few years ago, but she said it.
But wait, hold on. In the New York Times also reported this, that this took place under Donald Trump's presidency as well, because depriving a trans prisoner the right to get gender-affirming care is, Cenk, it's the law, it's the Constitution, is against the Constitution of the United States, preventing cruel.
Excuse me for my pausing. I don't pause this much, but I have to say what I believe. That is not a need. Me wanting to smoke versus I don't have to smoke. Me needing to smoke. It's not a need. Me needing to drink water. That's a need. For example, oh, I need to drink wine. No, that's not a need. Twisted. You see what I'm saying? Up is down. Down is up. Then trying to convince normal people that that's normal. It's not normal. It's just not normal.
An unusual punishment, because if somebody is deemed medically necessary to receive care, no matter what that care is, and you ban it or say, no, you can't get it, that absolutely falls under cruel and unusual punishment. So Donald Trump did the same thing. And that's an example of the disinformation, or at least the lack of context that Trump's campaign
included. Do you accept that this?
Yes, Cenk, I'm sorry, yes.
But do you accept the so-called culture war stuff that I would frame as a kind of very, very far left, progressive, woke stuff? That I've seen a lot of Democrats in the more centre part of the party coming out now and publicly saying what I was saying for a long time. Apparently, Bill Clinton kept warning them internally. David Axelrod has come out and said, we've got to stop this. You know, Joe Scarborough did a big monologue about it on Morning Joe. At some point, you've got to recognise that most average Americans just found all that stuff complete bullshit. And that's one of the reasons you lost. And you've got to move on from it. If you come back with another woke progressive platform in 4 years' time, you will be out of office potentially for 4 more, 8 more, maybe 12 more years. Exactly, I promise you. Take it to the bank.
So, Piers, I agree to a degree, but not in the way that you're framing it. I think that we do have to move on from a lot of the culture war stuff. I don't like the word woke, but I understand the context of you using it. I think that, yes, and to some degree we have to move on. But by moving on, we shouldn't throw people under the bus. We shouldn't say, oh, you know, trans people are the reason why, or LGBTQ plus people are the reason why. That's not the reason why. It's just that the culture war stuff came off as very kind of gross to some Americans. They really didn't like it. So I agree to a degree, but not in the way that you're framing.
Okay, let's talk about race, because it seems...
Can I get in here?
Well, one second, Shane. Hang on. Okay. One thing, I'll come to you, Shane, don't worry. On the issue of race, many people found it extraordinary that a guy who a lot of people think is racist beat a black woman, and that a lot of people that helped him win turned out to be a lot more black men voting for him than first time, and a lot more Latinos voting for him than the previous times. How important, if at all, was race in the end? Or was it actually a case of a lot of black and Latino people went, we don't care about all that stuff. What we care about is jobs, cost of living, illegal immigration, and so on?
Well, I think everybody cares about jobs, cost of living, inflation, and so on. And by the way, I don't think you're right about those numbers. I think there were more black men than black women who went towards Trump. But remember, they're still a small segment of the overall electorate. The big shift, actually, as I said, Latino men was a huge shift, and they're also not that big a section of the electorate. The big electorate in this country still is white people, and overwhelmingly white men went for Donald Trump, and white women who I thought, and I think a lot of pollsters thought, given the abortion issue and the success of abortion as an issue that favored Democrats in 2020, but also after the Dobbs decision in 22 and all the referenda, the white women again voted for Trump. But so you talk about, is this a race issue? The race issue may be that white Americans were overwhelmingly in support of Donald Trump. And if you look at black America as overall black.
Nobody was thinking about race. I grew up not giving a fuck about race. That's the last fact when you treat me wrong or do me wrong. But it still doesn't matter. It's not the main factor. When I meet you and something happens, you're a mean friend to me or whatever, it doesn't happen. Because I still got plenty of other friends the same race as you. White, black, Mexican, Latino, mixed. It doesn't matter. If you raised a certain way to not give a fuck, it's in you. You don't care. You love, you like, you're friends with who you want to be friends with. That doesn't matter. Liberals always keep this shit alive when it's dead. They love keeping this shit alive to find an excuse to not see what reality. Let them keep being wrong and idiotic and insane with their beliefs. Because conservatives and whatever conservative leader will just keep winning to keep America in order with an iron fist. They'll just keep winning, so that's fine. It's so barbaric to me. It's freaking barbaric. Like, it really is.
Black America supported Kamala Harris. Overall, Latino America supported Kamala Harris. Even Latino men who had that big shift. So, to me, race is a part of the story because, you know, in America, the demographics are creating anxiety. And I think the anxiety is most evident in terms of white America seeing that there are more black people, but also Latinos as the second largest group in the country now, and rising numbers.
It's like they're making a problem when there is no problem. They're making it that particular issue when that's not the particular issue. The polls told you that's not the issue. It never was. That's not the issue. We're around each other and everybody all the time. It's just so freaking ignorant to me. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. It's so ignorant how people just like think like that, like just tunnel vision, like just think that particular way. No, this woman is evil. I just see it. She somebody above her, whoever it is, wanted her to be president. She's an empty vessel. She has no original thought. This woman could cause chaos. Okay? Fact. It's not about gender as far as her being a female. I'm talking about two genders, male or female. It's not about that. Tulsi, she could be president and I don't trust her. Like, no. She's not the one to be president.
Number of Asians. It plays out in so many. And I think Donald Trump is just expert at exploiting, that racial anxiety to say to people, these Democrats are playing identity politics or whatever. I think the identity politics overwhelmingly.
Everybody's not Democrats that voted for him.
Overwhelmingly is played by Donald Trump with white America.
Cenk, you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, so look, I'm going to address what Juan's saying too. But first, Harry, I know that the same policy was under Donald Trump, but that's not disinformation. That's for our candidate to go out there and clarify that and to fight back and to make her case. But she refused to make her case. She barely did any interviews. They were all incredibly structured to protect her fragile ego. All she did was talking points. Donald Trump's out there, sometimes like a maniac, but a lot of times looking like a real person at McDonald's and with a garbage truck. And our side goes, oh, that's terrible. No, it's not terrible. Those are great photo ops.
It was brilliant.
When our guy is a person is a corporate talking robot, that is not helpful. We are misdiagnosing the case here. So when on these identity issues, the Republicans set traps. No, hold on. The Republicans set traps for us. So the great majority of the country is in favor of trans rights, and I'm 100% in favor of trans rights, and I bet you that the entire panel, including Pierce, says that as well. Yeah. But when you go beyond rights and you say, hey, they dug and dug, they tried to find, hey, how about banning them from the military? Trump tried that in the beginning. It wasn't popular. Banning them from bathrooms, not popular. But they dug until they got to sports, and that was winning ground for them. And what I said is, guys, get out of there. It's a trap. You don't have to fight on that. You're falling into their trap. And what happened, as Pierce can attest to, is everyone else on the left screamed, transphobe, fascist, Nazi. Let's dig in on our least popular position. That was terrible politics.
Totally agree with that.
And Juan, I love you, brother, but it ain't about race. It ain't about race.
You know what?
Latino men didn't vote for. Hold on. Latino men didn't vote for Donald Trump because all of a sudden they like white people or orange people. They voted for him based on economic issues. Democrats only think in terms of identity, but that's not working anymore. The number one identity people care about is.
I rarely agree with Cenk, his crazy ass, but he hit the nail on the head or whatever.
Is not Latino, black, or white. It's class. Are you going to do something for the average man, or are you going to sit there and play identity politics so you avoid the more important questions that your donors don't want to talk about that actually helps the average guy, like paid family leave and higher wages?
Okay, Professor Lippman.
I don't get it, Cenk. I don't get it. The reality is, like, Bill Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, they stood up for Obamacare. They stood up for fair pay. These are populist issues at the heart of the Democratic Party. You go after the Democratic Party donors and the establishment Democrats stood for those issues, brought them to the table, and won. And Democrats, if you look at what Joe Biden did in terms of bailing people out during the virus and saying that we have to have infrastructure and building, that helped working people in this country. But a lot of lies were told about that history.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, Professor, I know you got to leave us, so just you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah. First of all, let me add a quick fact. There was no massive switch of black voters to Donald Trump. Donald Trump got 13% of the black vote, 11% the last time. That's 2% of a very small segment of voters. So that's one of the big myths of this.
I'll just let it continue.
This election. Second big myth is that hindsight is 20/20. We have a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks who, after the fact, are telling us what Harris should and should not have done. And half of them are saying she lost because she was too progressive. She was too open to the charge of being a radical, a socialist. The other half have said, of course, she lost because she wasn't progressive enough. We heard that from Cenk today. It's all sports talk radio without the entertainment. There is no way to know after the fact what she should or should not have done. If she had only done this or that, it would have made a difference. That's just hot air with absolutely no proof. The difference that I bring to the table is a track record of successful prediction based upon how American presidential elections have previously worked as pragmatic decision-making on whether or not the White House party has governed well enough. And then my analysis is based upon what's changed, what's shattered the pattern of 160 years of history. So I have a base for my analysis. I'm not just doing Monday morning quarterbacking. Cenk, you need to learn some manners. Your act is getting really thick.
I mean, brother, I said what was going to go wrong. It did go wrong. I was right. You were wrong in this election spectacularly so with your so-called keys. And now you come and tell us not to Monday morning.
Unlike you, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong.
Are you ever going to learn the lessons?
Can I just ask, hang on. Just ask, for those who have no idea what the key thing is all about, why are you flashing keys?
Learn from it. But I don't want them to learn.
Okay, because this brother said that he had these keys and they were going to determine the outcome of the election. And all the keys were rigged in favor of incumbents. And I tried to explain to him, no, there are things outside of the keys. We literally had a debate and I asked him, what if Joe Biden, this was back when he was defending Joe Biden, which now seems unconscionable, what if Biden came and punched a baby every single day? Would your keys still hold? And he said yes. Okay, well then you're an unreasonable person.
I was right.
But what I'm most worried about is not the past,
Let me
it's the
explain
future.
why. I was right
listen to him.
about Biden.
You have no idea how absurd you sound. Okay, but guys, the most important thing is not between me and Professor Lichtman. God bless you, brother. I know you did a lifetime's worth of work, and I feel a little bit bad about it. The reason I'm saying it is not to rub it in now. It's because I'm worried that in the next primary, you're going to tell people to vote for the establishment Democrat. That all of you on this panel are going to go, oh no, vote for the corporate robot, vote for the corporate robot. And that's going to destroy this party. That's why I'm fighting back so aggressively.
Give me a name.
No, vote for the populist left.
Give me a name.
Well, in the old days, it easily would have been Bernie Sanders.
Who is it now?
Too old. So, look, I would start considering Shawn Fain, head of the UAW, Sean O'Brien, head of the Teamsters, Jon Stewart. Go outside of politics. Almost everyone in politics is already corrupted. Find someone who is not corrupted and who's for the average man.
Harry, you're shaking your head, but I mean, Jon Stewart, if he could be persuaded, I would imagine could be very good as a candidate, couldn't he?
No, I don't take objection to Jon Stewart. I just think we have some people in the Democratic Party who are very talented right now who could be the Democratic nominee. Governor Shapiro won Pennsylvania by like 20 points. Governor Wes Moore in Maryland. How much more connected to people do you need other than like Wes Moore, who's great? Raphael Warnock from Georgia won a swing state and is a senator from a swing state. Gretchen Whitmer, who had a trifecta in Michigan for the first time in a long time. There's really talented people in the Democratic Party who are elected officials right now, and Schenck can shake his head all he'd like, but these people are winning in swing states overwhelmingly.
Who would you like to see, Harry?
I think any of the people I just mentioned, I'd love to see. And there's plenty more, but I think we're going to have a great primary.
I'm pretty sure I would lay good money now that J.D. Vance will be the Republican nominee in
I'd say it's probably a good bet.
Because I think he's actually, he, in direct contrast to Mr. Waltz, who I thought was a total disaster, I thought J.D. Vance started with a lot of negativity, but became a real force for Trump, particularly in getting young men to come. Who would you like to see run the party now? I mean, what's the future of the Democrats looking like to you?
Jon Stewart. I've been pushing that since the day Trump won this time around, because what we need is, honestly, a controversial, charismatic celebrity might make all of the difference, but it's that mixed with Bernie Sanders' policies of actually delivering social democracy for people, raising their pay, getting them health care. I think that's the magic stew, and honestly, I think it's
Bernie Sanders is too liberal for me, man. For real. Bernie Sanders reminds me of an independent that just turned his head. If it don't affect me, it's fine. And then when it started affecting me, then, oh, okay, shit, I don't want to. By then, it's too late. Some independents be like that. Like, no. You got to wait for something to go wrong and be like, okay, I'm not with it. Like, you should see it a mile away. Like, nah. Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. I usually just do like a clip store video, but I made this about I don't know, like 60 minutes. So all right, we'll come back and see you guys, and I guess comment, give me your point of view and all that, but my point of view is not going to change with all the digging and knowledge that I do know so far through the 10 plus years. So you guys have a nice night, and thumbs me up, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So come back and see a Goth Wednesday TV. Have a safe good night.